You know there guys, this is Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft, and today we're taking a look at the Midlands Airsoft Fair hosted by the Gaol. Now as always with my video reviews, I'm going to put YouTube annotations up here and here, so if there's a specific part of the video you want to skip ahead to, just click on any of those and it's going to go straight to it. Now this is going to be a little bit briefer and different from my usual video reviews. This is because the Airsoft Fair is an event that only happens twice per year, so I'm only going to be covering the event and not the site it was hosted itself, which is the Gaol. If you want to find out more about the Gaol, I've already done a video review of it and I've included a link in the description down below, so go and have a gander at that if you want to find out more about the rest of the site itself and how that plays. And so without further ado, we're going to dive straight on into the review. So the site's hosted at the Gaol, which is in Rutland on the Oakham Enterprise Park. Now I've included the postcode in the description down below, but I suggest you don't use it. If you're using a sat-nav to direct yourself to the Gaol, instead search directly for the Oakham Enterprise Park. That way it's going to drop you straight up on the doorstep. I'd actually forgotten my own advice for my Gaol review last time and ended up easily half a mile off course, so make sure you do that if you're using a sat-nav. Now, the Gaol used to be the HMP Ashwell prison, and because of this, I think it actually makes it the perfect site to host this in. Usually with CQB sites, they tend to be in disused buildings, but all the ones here are still in pretty decent condition. You've not got all the rubbish that you usually get in CQB sites, so you don't have to worry about tripping up everything. So it's perfect for setting up stalls and to have a browse around, and also you don't have to worry about what the weather's doing. So even if it's tipping it down with rain, it still makes this a viable event. So the walk-on fee for the day was £5. This allows you to get a free cooked breakfast as well as your walk-on fee, and it also allows you to take part in the pistol, shotgun, GBB games that are running throughout the day. If you want to take part in these games but you don't have your own kit, or maybe you didn't want to bring your own, then a £5 will allow you to hire out a handgun to use in these games. As I mentioned, there is cooked food on site and that goes throughout the entire day, so it's not like there's a specific time. You can just go back to the store and get food whenever you feel like it. And because it's an indoor site, there are indoor bathrooms. However, as I said in my Gaol review, only use the ones that have been marked as actual bathrooms. Because this used to be a prison complex, there were a lot of bathrooms around, but the plumbing has been taken out of most of them. And that includes the area where the stalls are set up, because that's usually gaming area. So just read the signs and make sure you actually use the bathrooms that are still bathrooms. So obviously the main attraction of the fair is the various cellar stalls that are dotted around the place. What they've done is they dedicated one of the prison wings exclusively to these retailers, so they can vary from big names such as West Midlands Airsoft and Skirmish Airsoft, down to just people that have grouped together and they're wanting to sell a load of second-hand kit. This means that whether you're wanting to buy something brand new, second-hand, or perhaps you have like a project gun back at home, or you're just hunting for specific individual parts, they've got you covered on absolutely everything. Even have a couple of spares, boneyard bucket stocking around, so you can just go rummaging through one of those and see what you can find. So depending on what you want, I think they've got you covered on pretty much everything. They might not have the wide variety of complete brand new guns that a dedicated retailer shop was, but considering I managed to pick up a foregrip, the laser light torch combo that you see there, spare mags, patches, everything you can possibly want, is chances are you're going to be able to find it. So aside from the cellar stalls, what else did they have going on? Well, the 126 Field Company was present, so if you wanted to find out more about the Army and Army Reserves, you can go and have a chat with them and they'll tell you more about it. ASG were present. You could go and speak to the guy there and he'd let you test fire the brand new Scorpion Evo around the back. You could also pick up a couple of freebies from them now and again as well. There was also a raffle going on through the day. Various prizes to that included game days at some sites. It's £50 to spend on whatever you liked on a stall, and also you could pick a handgun of your choice as the top prize reward. There was also obviously the indoor games that I was on about earlier, but we'll go to them in a minute. They also had some indoor CQB training. Now I personally didn't manage to get involved with this, unfortunately. I was a bit too busy with the games themselves, but from what I heard from the people I spoke to, it was certainly enjoyable. So I think it's easily becoming apparent that for only a £5 to get involved with all of this, it's definitely good value. There's got so much to see and do there, and you're not going to be bored. There is always something to get involved with and see whilst you're at the site. So let's talk about the CQB games that are going on through the day. Now the way these work is you can bring any kind of pistol, shotgun or gas blowback SMG as long as it is limited to semi-auto only. You are allowed grenades, and I'd say they're near essential on some of the indoor sections of the site as well. The way they worked is they'd have two games back to back. So what would happen is they'd be split the players in halves, attackers, defenders. The attackers will clear the entire interior of the prison wing first, and then for the second game the attackers would then fight the defenders on the outside around the various bits of cover they've got outside the buildings. What this does mean is that if you want to experience what it's like from the defender's perspective, if you start as the attackers, you need to sign on to the next set of games because you will be attacking for both of them. This is obviously to reduce the turnaround in between games so that they can get the next one on a bit more quicker and make sure everyone has time to rearm and everything. So just keep that in mind if you want to see both perspectives. A little thing I noticed is that when you got people signing on because you needed to fill their insurance waiver before you could join in the games, they didn't have anyone chronoing the guns there. I would have thought since you've already got people waiting in line to sign on, you might as well just have a guy stood there with the chrono making sure that everything's all hunky-dory when people are signing in. But that's just a little thing I spotted. Another thing that you need to be aware of is that there wasn't a dedicated area for setting up your gear. So this was a little bit irritating for me because you're not allowed to open carry between your car and the site entrance, so I had to bring my kit out, set up all my guns, bring the kit back to the car, but make sure I left my guns at the entrance, bring it back. It was all a bit of a faff. I would have liked a dedicated area that I could just leave my stuff in there. Also, it had helped because we got quite lucky with the weather. It didn't rain the entire day, but since I had to set up outside, if it started tipping it down, then I think the day could have gone a completely different direction for me. So obviously all the buildings were packed with various cellar stalls and things that were going on for the day, but just something that I'd like for next time if at all possible. What about the games themselves though? Well, they're exactly what I've come to expect in the Gaol, and that's short, intense, moment-to-moment CQB gameplay. The interior is extremely intense. Wear a face mask. You're going to be coming round corners and blundering straight into people if you're not careful. So even though they do say it's optional, I'd highly recommend wearing one, or at the very least making sure you know how to keep your mouth shut, otherwise you might quickly lose some teeth. Obviously, if you're a timid player, this might not be to your style. You might actually be stuck right at the back of a queue of players queuing up to go into a doorway as well. So I'd suggest that if you want to get involved, make sure you're at the front. All the attackers were on constant regen, so you've got nothing to lose in pushing up and getting involved with it. Because it was obviously constant regen as well, this meant that the attackers had the confidence they need to make the pushes and keep the game going, but it also kept hit taking good because they could just quickly wander back to the start and dive straight back in. If you're not into your indoor thing at all and you want to do more of an outdoor kind of thing, then they have covered that as well with the second game type. That was a bit less claustrophobic. It allowed the players to spread out and to come in from various sides. So a bit more lenient in terms of what you might like in the outdoor things, and then you're obviously not having to worry about just turning a corner and walking straight into a guy. So they've got you covered on both fronts. If you want a more in-depth perspective of what the games might be like, I've included a link to my video last week where I showed you the games from my own perspective. So if you want to see what the gameplay is like from a first-person perspective, just click on that and it'll sort you out. So to summarise then, is the Midlands Airsoft Fair any good? Well, in my personal opinion, it's definitely more than just a glorified bring and buy sale. There is so much to see and get involved with whilst you're here. The CQB games, seeing what all the various cellar stalls have to offer, rummaging through the parts bins, and even seeing things like the Army, ASG, and various other things besides. You've got so much to see and do whilst you're here. It's going to keep you entertained, and for just a £5, it's definitely good value for money. I mean, the cooked breakfast and the CQB games practically pay for themselves. Even if it's just a case of you've been interested in the Gaol and don't want to pay a full game day fee and you just want to experience it and see if it's your kind of site, that might be a perfect excuse to turn up to the next Midlands Airsoft Fair. So if you're wanting to keep your ear to the ground and find out when the next one is, because they only do run 2 a year, I've included a link to their Facebook page in the description down below, so go onto that, like the page, and it'll keep you informed when the next one's coming in. Also got things like the review of the Gaol itself. Maybe you want to find out a bit more about the site it's hosted at, that's in the description as well. So everything you might need is down there. So I hope you've enjoyed my video review of the Midlands Airsoft Fair, and until next time, this has been Dale of Lone Wombat Airsoft.